Let me fucking get it off the page. Everyone starts with part one. Okay? Everyone starts with this first part. It's your team. The team is the most important thing. So, how to pick a team. Also, put another sticky note here. Most people, they say, I don't have a team, but it's just me. That's fine if it's just you right now. Once you read this information and you take it all in, you'll know everything that you'll need to know to, delegate the tasks to your other team members. It's important that you have like a, s- a scope of, what you're talking about when you're talking to these people that's going to be working for you, because, this is your business at the end of the day. As artists, we have to treat ourselves like it's a business because we are a business. All right. How to pick a team, getting your team together. Let's talk about the professionals you'll need to maximize your career and net worth. The main players are your personal manager, attorney, business manager, agency, and groupies. With respect to number five, you're pretty much on your own. As to others, take a look. Yeah. So, yeah, groupies, very important. Okay, business philosophy. Before we talk about the specific players, let me share a bit of personal philosophy. And I've put a sticky note for this too. And he makes four like very important points. So the first point, like I just mentioned earlier, is you are a business. Even though your skills are creative, you're capable of generating millions and millions of dollars, multi-millions of dollars. So you have to think of yourself as a business. Number two, most artists don't like business. This isn't to say that you aren't good at it. Some artists are unbelievably, astute in business. They're not really that great. However, these folks are the minority. And whatever their love and skill for business, okay, their love and skill for creating, performing are much bigger than their skill for business. So even if you got the chops to handle your own business, it's not always the best use of your time. Yeah, no, when I was reading that, it kind of caught me off guard because it's like, yeah, like, you know, I kind of relate to that because it's like, yeah, I'm pretty good at the business, but it's not necessarily the best use of my time. Like I would rather spend much more time creating music than, looking at a spreadsheet all day or something. Number three, success hides a multitude of sins. This is true in any business, from making widgets to making music. If you're successful, you can get away with sloppy operations that will bankrupt you if times are bad. For example, putting all your pals on payroll, buying lots of non-income producing assets like houses and jets and diamonds and all that type of stuff. Yeah, other things that cost you money to maintain, as well as overindulge in various legal and illegal goodies, can easily result in a crash and burn if your income takes even a small dip, much less a nosedive. You can make more money by cutting costs than you can by earning more income. So the time to operate efficiently is now, not later. And then number four, the last thing, and this is kind of like, oof, it's your career is going to have a limited run. And he says, don't take offense at this because limited can mean anything from a year to 50 years, but it's going to be limited. In most other careers, you can expect a professional life of 40 years plus, but as an entertainer in the music business, this rarely happens. And that is true, unless you're like Michael Jackson or Audemars Locke, those streaming on Spotify and Apple Music. Yeah. Shameless plug. Anyway, yeah. So those are the main 4 points. And so next, he talks about hiring a team. So the way you pick your professional team will either set your career and finances. Yeah, the way you pick your professional team will either set up your career and finances for life, or assure you a place at the next Electric Rooms tour. What the fuck is Electric Rooms? That threw me off guard. Like, who is that? So be very careful and pay attention personally to the process of assembling them. I know you don't like to deal with this stuff, but it's your career and it's your money, and you have to do it every now and then. If you pick the right people, you can set your life on automatic pilot and just check up on it periodically. If you pick the wrong people and set it on autopilot, you'll smash it into a mountain before you even know what happened. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that's true. Let's see. Since you wouldn't open the store without something to sell, before you start assembling the team, you want to make sure that your music is ready for the big time. And how do you know when it's ready? You ask your tummy. Believe, do you believe in your gut that your music has matured to the point that you're ready for a professional career? If the answer is yes, then you're ready. That's kind of funny. Yeah. No, like, girl, the music, is the music good? I mean, if your music is good or not. So yeah, the first thing is to record your music. The recording doesn't have to be expensive or elaborate. With the advent of, we have cheap software, and you can get a very professional sound in your bedroom. The important thing is to capture your energy, enthusiasm, and drive. You know what I mean? A word about what kind of music to make is simple. You make the music that moves your soul. No one has ever had a serious career by imitating others or trying to guess what the public wants. And I'll tell you a secret: what the public wants is someone whose music resonates from their heart. Doesn't matter whether you're the commercial flavor of the month or an obscure blend of reggae and Buddhist chants. All the superstars I've known have a clear vision of who they are and what their music is. Okay, now that is kind of like a relief to read that, even just like in this, fast-paced TikTok world where, you have people copying trends and, you just try to like hop on the next thing. Like, yeah. What people want most right now is authenticity. And I feel like you can sniff that out, even just like, now we're in the age of like fucking AI and shit. I think like human connection and just, the story that you have to tell is more valuable than ever. And you can build your own world with that. So yeah, it doesn't really matter what you put out, just as long as you put that shit out and say it with your chest. Yeah. Some artists try to create music that triggers the TikTok algorithm, hoping that it'll make the music go viral. Obviously, there's no one formula, or else everyone would do it. But for example, they might put the hook at the beginning of the song to lower the skip rate. Nah, that's funny. Yeah, they might do that. But you know, it's just like whatever works for you, just like it work. Like it's different for everybody. Let's see. Since this book's last edition, the music business has become far more democratic than ever in history. In the old days, record companies were enormous gatekeepers. And without a label's clout, it was extremely difficult to get your records in the stores. The only place to buy music before Amazon and iTunes. Okay, yeah. It was extremely difficult to get your records in the stores or get radio play or even get on TV. Today, record stores are virtually gone, and radio and TV mean far less. You can also easily make your music available online, so your songs can be judged by their own merit. And that's good news. The bad news is that everyone could put their music online. And as I write this, over 100,000 tracks are uploaded every day. So how do you ever break through the crowd? You have to build a fan base and keep them engaged. We'll talk about we'll talk about how in a minute. After that, your music either works or it doesn't. Remember, streaming services are driven by algorithms, and the more a song is listened to, the more the algorithm pushes it. That's because streaming services want their listeners engaged, and they don't really care what they're listening to. So if you catch fire, the flares up fast. But if you don't, your music lies there like that brand new bag, like the new brand of dog food that you tried out on. Dog, he be killing me with these like little one-liners. So, how exactly do you get fans besides your mom? Now, that's a good question. A lot of bands start off by playing local gigs. This is not only to attract fans, but also to tighten up your musical chops and get experience playing live. When you play, get fans to sign up for your email list at every show. A lot of art, a lot of artists offer something as an incentive to build their list. For example, everyone who signs up gets a pen or a sticker. Even if you only add a few new folks at each gig, and if you're here and there online, you can eventually build a following that helps spread the word around the music and grows itself virally, assuming your music doesn't suck. That's funny as fuck. You also have to get your name and music out there on social media. For example, one tool is Reddit. arguably the largest online community in this space and leading the Ask Me Anything platform. Hosting your own Reddit page means posting about your news and songs, and the site also lets you join in on discussions on a wide range of topics beyond music, such as art, gaming, or anything else that interests you. Another technique to expand your fan base is to connect with other artists on Instagram or Twitter. Fans love to eavesdrop on artists who are talking shop. And you can also get exposed to other artists' fans. If they have a following, this makes their fans aware of you. Many artists also offer free exclusive songs to anyone who signs up to their email or SMS or social list for the first time. So basically, I have a sticky note right here, and it says, build a list, give value, be consistent, stay in touch. That's all you have to do. That's all you have. But yeah, there's places like Bandcamp or Patreon where you can just like build those community fan bases. Let's see, what's another part? You can create unique content such as exclusive video chats, early access to new recordings, exclusive videos of you in the studio. Maybe fans get a free ticket if they buy one, or a chance to meet you after a gig, or volunteer to help clean their garage. That's funny as fuck. Maybe you give out an epic live recording or acoustic recording to one of your fan base's favorite songs, or if you're into the metaverse, you can give them an NFT. And what's crazy about that is like, most people, they hear a metaverse and NFT, they think, oh, like, what the fuck? Like, that's some weird shit. Like, NFTs, I lost money on NFTs, like, but I used to work for this platform called even.biz. You can search it up online. It's a direct to consumer music platform. And it's pretty much an NFT marketplace. So people, they sell their music on this website before it hits streaming, because artists, they leave their money on the table by not going direct to their fans first. So it just serves like a little marketplace where you can just sell your music. And with the music, you can also sell access too. So like, okay, you buy the music early, you might also get access to that video of the live performance, like we mentioned earlier, or you might get access to a special group chat, or you get added to the email list. It's just a way to like directly connect with your fans. And I feel like a lot of that is like missed out, because even as I do this on platforms like Instagram and YouTube, I don't own my fan base, I don't own my audience. YouTube owns, like, they have control over all of the data. Like if YouTube was to shut down today, I wouldn't have anything. Same thing with Instagram. So yeah, so by building the database on your own, you will own it. And that's really important. The list of fans who follow you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're owned and controlled by Silicon Valley, folks. It's literally what it says in the book. They're owned and controlled by Silicon Valley, not you. This means they control if and how you can reach your fans, as well as who they are. When you create your own base, you have full access forever. Once you have a list, no matter how small, stay in touch with your fans on a regular basis. Direct them to your music on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Instagram, etc. Another way to engage with fans is to run a contest. For example, if fans retweet or share a post about one of your shows, they can enter a drawing for free tickets. Or if they post a picture of their ticket, they could win a meet and greet. That makes your promotion easily shareable and viral by nature. Technically, there could be some issues with the laws that govern sweepstakes, lotteries, and things like that. But artists do quite a lot of this, and I'm not aware of anyone getting hassled for small scale stuff. No, the keyword in the prior sentence is aware. By the way, like I mentioned in the disclaimer in the book earlier, like, take everything with a grain of salt. You don't have to do literally what it says word for word, verbatim for some of this stuff, because the music industry, it changes so fast and so frequently. So it's just like, always when you're reading this, you always want to double check. Let's see. The overarching idea is to build. For example, if you might only have 100 fans on your page, but each of those fans have 1,000 followers. If you can get 10 of your fans to share your material, that's 10,000 pairs of eyeballs staring at your stuff, assuming everyone has two eyes. Maybe they don't turn into fans or followers right away, but it gets you on their radar. What's going on? What's going on, chat? Okay. So now you've got a buzz going. Next question is whether you want to sign to a record company or do it yourself. We'll discuss that later. Whether you actually want to sign or not. But for now, let's assume you do. How do you go about that? In this day and age, before a label will sign you, they expect you to have a decent sized fan base and hopefully one or two other goodies in your story, like high streaming numbers on TikTok, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music, or YouTube with a low skip rate, meaning people don't move to the next song a few seconds after your start. They also want to see that your fans are engaged and following you on your social media beyond just listening to your music. So in other words, they want to see that fans are into you as an artist and not just the song. And that is like, when you think about that, a lot of the TikTok songs that went viral, like, during the pandemic and stuff, when they would get signed, like people, they would be like, I know the song, I don't know who made the song, but it's just like, oh, I've heard it, you know what I'm saying? And you don't really have a connection with them right away. So a lot of those labels, they were just signing people off one song, but people didn't even know the song, but they wouldn't really spend time building the community around it. What's going on? Hey, cuz. Yeah, let's see. All the record labels have research departments full of data geeks watching for anything that gets traction and smells like it's going to explode. And without an internet buzz, honestly, it's pretty hard to get their attention. So that's where your energy needs to go. On rare occasions, artists get signed because they are ear picks. Wow, that sounds like a instrument of what? It means minimal or no buzz, but someone at a label hears your music, hence the ear part, and they fall in love. However, none of the labels take unsolicited material because they're afraid of lawsuits. Yeah, because if one of their artists they later release a song that sounds like yours, if they had that recording before the other one was created, you can argue that the label gave it to their artist. And whether or not that's true, the label is sued. And that's just a lot of money. And I don't think most people have the money to even deal with the major labels, especially ones like Warner and Universal. Now, for the good news from all of this, labels have basically decided they'll come to the party later than ever before, meaning they want to sign artists who already have a base that's growing. In other words, instead of finding an unknown artist in the club and grooming them for stardom, they chase artists without they chase artists with heat around them who have better chances of success and therefore hedge the label's risk. However, all the labels have the same internet data, so multiple labels are usually chasing the same artists. And that's when you have a lot of hounds after the same fox. The artists have more bargaining power. And that translates to bigger advances, better royalties, and even profit shares. Plus the potential of artists owning the recordings either from the outset or down the road. So nowadays, new artists are getting deals far beyond anything than folks just starting in the careers than ever get in the past. So that's crazy to think about because it's basically the book is talking about there's no artist development anymore. And when you used to have labels like Motown, for example, they would take people from the neighborhood and they'll teach you how to dress, how to dance, you have vocal lessons, get your hair done, you just put the whole look together and package it. That takes a lot of money. That takes a lot of investment to even do that. And nowadays, you have the power of the internet and we can all just do it ourselves to the point where it's just like the label just wait and just like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna just let you do your thing and we'll come when, we feel like we're not gonna lose a lot of money because that's a lot of money and investment and people don't, I guess, have the time to do any of that, which is crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody can point me to somebody that is interested in bringing the artist development back. I don't know. I just think it just looks different now, I guess. So he says, don't get me wrong. I don't think labels will stop chasing artists who have a buzz, but I believe we'll see more ear picks and artist development in the next few years. So watch this space. Okay, now it says that this book was released last year. So I feel like maybe we will start to see that in the future because I feel like I want him back. And in any event, once they're after you, you need someone in the business to guide you through the minefields, which leads nicely into the discussion of how to put together your team. Okay, who's on first? The first person on your team is almost always a manager or a lawyer. In your baby stages, the manager is not likely to be someone in the business. It's more likely a friend or relative with a lot of enthusiasm. While this can be a major plus, your friend or relative is not likely knowledgeable in the business, nor they will have any high level relationships. So if you have an inexperienced manager, or if you have no manager at all, a music industry lawyer can really help. Now, I was the friend, I was the inexperienced person on the team with no connections. But hey, it's just like this is my third time, like, going through this book, and you have the internet now. There's so many different resources where you can just get your head in the game and start. There's also different sites like LinkedIn. LinkedIn has gotten me so many different gigs and jobs and shit. Like, you wouldn't even understand. So it's just like, really just take the time to educate yourself and just put yourself out there. You never know what the fuck is going to happen. It's much easier to get a music lawyer than a manager. Why? Because the time required of a lawyer is minimal compared to the time of a manager has to devote. Yeah, no, that is true. The manager is expected to help you with songs, image, bookings, babysitting. But in the early stages, a lawyer only has to spend a few hours wrangling the labels and structuring your deal. It's the lawyer's knowledge and relationships, not their time, that count. So you'll need a manager and or a lawyer, even if you don't go the record company route. And the criteria for hiring them, which we'll discuss in the next chapters, is exactly the same. Agents in the music business are primarily in booking live gigs, and for bigger artists, endorsements and the like. It's hard to get a major agent at the early stages when you're not earning much, but when you get someone local or a smaller agency, unless you have a manager with some clout, your manager will guide you to the right person and the right time to bring them on board. Business manager, now that's the person who collects your money, writes your checks, oversees investments, et cetera, stuff like that. That's usually the last on board, and it's because it's expensive. Yeah. For a business manager to take you on, and like new artists need a lot of work just to keep financially afloat. Okay, yep. Another reason they come on last is that very few business managers are willing to take a flyer once. Hold on, what? My glasses. Okay. Another reason they come on last is that very few business managers are willing to take a flyer with a totally unproven, unsigned artist. The business manager's potential upside is not nearly as great as the personal managers or agent because they have to run up substantial expenses from the beginning. But don't sweat it. Until you have some decent money coming in, you don't need a full fledged business manager. A good accountant can take care of your tax returns and answer basic questions. So the search. So where do you find these people that you're talking to assemble your team? Okay, so you talk to people involved in music. Even if it's your high school choir's piano company. Yeah, no, you can lead yourself into some areas just by following your notes and just talking to people that you know. Okay, so the major players are almost all in Los Angeles and New York, with a good number of people in Nashville. Now, Nashville is a crazy music city when I think about it, because Nashville, it was always like very country music base, but I don't know a few people that went to school out in Nashville, and it's starting to get a little bit different. They're starting to like, the scene is starting to open up to, more alternative, genres, stuff besides country, but it's still heavily country focused. But yeah. So in the book, Donald, he gives like some resources that we can use to like, build our list out of people to reach out to. So, You have allaccess.com, and it's like an online directory of people in the music biz, and it's updated pretty often. So it has the and also has a major advantage of being free. So yeah, just register on the site and you can just go ahead and take a look on that. There's another site called Roster. It's a newer site, and it was very new at the time of writing this book. This is like around last year. But yeah, Roster, that's a good site. I've used that site before. His magazine, he describes it as like the Mad Magazine of the music biz. It has current news and gossip, and it's kind of like a college humor style. And then Billboard Mag as well is also good. It's the industry trade mag. It has the news, it has the top charts. Talk about music business on there as well. Billboard, it has all different things. But yeah, so many different sources. You read interviews. You can go on like musicconnection.com, Spin, Pitchfork, Rolling Stone, Vibe, XL. These are all good places to look for your team. Also, look for the professionals surrounding people whose music you would admire, and whose style are similar to yours. This is less critical with lawyers and business managers. It's important to make sure that agencies, especially personal managers, they handle your kind of music. So, and it gives an example too. The agent who books Wayne Newton is not likely to book Lil Wayne, and I guarantee you they have different managers. On the other hand, you may be surprised to find acts just as diverse are represented by the same agency with different individual agents. And the legal and business management lives of different artists are a lot alike. Rock and rollers like Green Day, the Rolling Stones, rappers like Drake, Juice WRLD, Jay-Z, etc., and divas like Adele, Beyonce, Barbra Streisand, etc., all have similar needs in music publishing, record royalties, touring, merchandising, sponsorship, etc. My phone just died, so I guess that's my Instagram live. I'll be right back. I'm about to charge my phone. We're gonna keep going. Let's see. Okay, so now let's talk about screening the sharks. Okay, so you got your list, run up hours of chasing people, and hopefully found 2-3 nibbles on your line. At this point, you should fully fly, drive by a bus, or hitchhike to meet those people in their natural habitat. You can tell everything. Yeah. Okay, you should meet them in person, basically, is what they're saying. You can't tell everything from a phone call or a Zoom. Let's see their body language. Meet their associates. See if they work out. Let's see. Basically, use your instincts to trust how they vibe with you. Yeah, so you're just screening somebody. Just, you're screening someone. That's why references are very important. That's what he talks about next. Have a potential team member give you references and check them out carefully. And asking for references, it's important to get people at your level of success. The fact that someone takes good care of their biggest client doesn't mean he or she will give you the same attention or even have the time to take care of you. Odd as it seems, some people don't even pay much attention to their big name clients, usually because they're too busy. It's an old joke based on truth about a major artist who couldn't get his lawyer on the phone to fire him. That's crazy. Also, try to get the reference from someone who's been using this professional for a while, so you don't just get a report on their honeymoon period. Although it may seem obvious, be sure the professional's expertise is in music. There are brilliant real estate accountants who would be lost in the music business, just as the opposite is true. In fact, even people with extensive film, television, and book expertise may not understand music. So be sure you're talking to someone who does. Use your other team members. You should consult the other team members anytime you want to hire someone. First, you want their input and suggestions, and second, these people have to work together. So you want to be sure you're not hiring someone who recently drove their SUV over their manager's foot. Well. But beware of this. Benjamin Franklin once said, and I'm too lazy to look up the exact quote, so I'll paraphrase it, that when you gather a group of people for their collective wisdom, You also gather their collective prejudices and hidden agendas. In other words, there will almost always be a political reason why your other team members want. That's crazy. There will almost always be a political reason why your other team members want something, and this may or may not coincide with your best interests. For example, a business manager may have just referred a very important client to a personal manager. The personal manager may therefore be pushing you toward this particular business manager in order to pay back the favor, regardless of whether the business manager is right for your situation. I don't mean to make you paranoid. Most people are ethical and won't recommend someone unless they genuinely believe he or she would be the best person for the job, even if it's a payback. But a great deal of politicking goes on in the music business. It does, just like any other business, and you should be aware of it, particularly because we are a small business and a deal with each other. Okay, because we're a small business and we deal with each other so much. The music industry, it is kind of small. Look beyond the sales pitch. Everybody looks great when we're selling. When you interview someone, all the seller's attention is focused on you, and you are absolutely the most important creature on the planet. That's almost never the case when you actually get down to the business. The reality to other people's needs take their toll. It's extremely difficult to know this in your first meeting. Because giving a good interview can take people very far in their professions. So, how do you protect yourself from this? Once again, check their references very carefully. Ask their references about their experience working with this person, such as whether they quickly return phone calls and emails, how fast he or she gets the work done, what's their zodiac sign, all that shit. Don't be don't be lulled by the promises. Fees. Okay, never hesitate to ask someone what they're going to charge you. I know it's uncomfortable, but bring it up anyway. You could be in for a seriously rude surprise if you don't. Yes, so always ask, like, how much is this going to cost? And when you do raise the topic, be wary of someone who gives you a vague answer. If you really can't stomach a fee discussion, have another team member do it for you. Yeah. No, for real. Let's see. Personality. Now, this is important because it's like, I mean, you're hiring people to guide you in your professional life, and not to hang out with you on the tour bus, but still, you got to think about like what's their type of style of work and like how does their personality really match up with yours, or do they match up with the other people in your team? Like, there's you got to think like is there some type of chemistry there? So that's pretty much what that talks about. Changing a team member. Okay. Here's what to do if something goes wrong in your team. So you talk about your problems. I know confrontation is difficult, but I've never known an artist or anyone else for that matter who enjoys confrontation. But for your team members to do an effective job, you must have an open communication with them. If you can't bring yourself to talk directly to the person who's bugging you, talk to another team member and make sure they carry the message fast. Nothing is worse than letting small things snowball to the point where they build into a major drama. If you discuss them when they're small, they can usually stay small. Often, they're just innocent misunderstandings. Okay, let's talk about losing confidence. So it pains me a bit to give you this next piece of advice, but you should have it. Once you've lost confidence in someone, it's almost impossible to continue with them. It's like falling out of love. It isn't easy to fall in again. I say this sadly because many times we lose confidence in people for the wrong reasons. It may be that someone with the political axe has buried them unjustly. It may be that they're doing a terrific job, but they have the personality of a stop sign and treat you rudely or bore you to death. It may have it may be they just deliver bad news to you. Yeah. Firing such a person is known as shooting the messenger. Yeah, damn. And maybe they've done a terrific job on everything important in your life, screwed up paying your bills one month, so you had no electricity, and your spouse refuses to ever see their face again. It's so many different things. Yeah. When you find yourself in this situation again, I urge you to talk to the person openly, directly, or through another team member and tell them how you feel. I know this is easy for me to say, and I admit it's difficult for me to do as well, but I force myself, and most of the time, I find that the problem is a simple mistake that is easily fixed. Even if it isn't, I always feel better just from processing it. If we talk things out and the situation doesn't get any better, split. Last thing, cocktail party talk. Let me say a word about cocktail party talk. In college, we used to play a kind of poker game called Roll Your Own. In this game, you get 5 cards and draw additional cards, like in the regular 5 card draw. Finally, you arrange your cards in any order you want before flipping them over one at a time and betting on each card. Flipping the first 3 cards, everybody at the table looks like they have a spectacular hand. There appear to be straight flushes, three of a kind, high pairs, every other imaginable configuration that make you want to drop out or give up the pot. However, when someone comes to flipping over the last couple cards, most of the hands are mediocre. I've always thought cocktail party talk is the same as flipping only the first 3 cards. So basically, everyone sounds like a genius. Everyone has just pulled off the greatest deal since the Louisiana Purchase. The truth, however, is that the last 2 cards, which you never see, the $1 million deal turns out to be $100,000 deal, with the other 900,000 being there only if the arts achieves mass success. Nobody ever talks about the screw ups, and the whole point of this is to say that you shouldn't take casual talk as face value. Now, that I agree with, because it's like, when you're at a party and you're meeting people, it's like, oh yeah, I just did this, like you just gotta take it with face value, like, oh, okay, yeah. And then that's why you got to check the references. So, and that was pretty much chapter 2. Talking about building the team. Next week, not next week, because it's LOL. Tomorrow, we're gonna talk about what's chapter 3. I think chapter 3 it talks about personal managers. So the role of a personal manager, what's the commission, what does the deal with the manager look like, things of that nature. So yeah, we're gonna end the stream. Thank you so much for joining. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with your friends, and yeah.